Well, we finally have some big news about Battlegrounds. I mean, we got a lot of news about Battlegrounds in this dev diary from Kabam Crashed. Let's go over the good, bad, and the ugly and tell you what I think about it. I got a lot of thoughts. Hey! So this is quite the post, which is awesome because it definitely indicates how much Crashed cares about this. And you don't really, well, you know what? I don't even know if I can say that for sure. I really don't have experience with other big game companies, and I don't even know where you classify Kabam in terms of big game companies, like when you compare them to something like EA or something, right? But as far as I know, this kind of feedback and this kind of level of detail is pretty unique. You guys let me know in the comments if that's not the case, or if you've had experience with other game developers who do a really good job, like I think that Kabam is doing here, and Crashed does specifically. So getting that out the way, I wanted to say thank you for him to take the time to do this and to talk to the community about this. Every interaction I've had with him personally has been good. I like him personally. Maybe he's just because he's Canadian. Maybe it's just because that's who he is. I don't know. Whatever the reasons are, he seems like a good dude, and he seems genuine and sincere in giving this feedback to the player base and being very honest and open about it, even if I don't always necessarily agree with the conclusions or the decisions that he makes or has come to. So just to get that out of the way, thank you. I appreciate it. So it's actually a really big post, and I'm not going to read every single detail, but I'm going to skim over lots of it and then talk about parts that I think are the most important, that will affect my alliance the most, that will affect me personally the most, and then, mainly because the most important thing for any video like this is how it'll affect the wider player base as the number one thing. So let's just kind of get into it. He's just saying, if he went too long talking about all of the different areas of the game, that this would be ridiculously long, and so he wanted to focus just on Battlegrounds. That's what this main part is. It says here, before I get into any, I want to say I won't be talking about bugs, gameplay issues, or anything else like that. That's stuff that definitely needs to be talked about, and I would love a post for each one of those issues of this detail. It does not have to be from Crashed. I would love this to come from whoever it is who is mostly in charge of working on those fixes or dealing with those issues, or just the general mood of the player base right now, because you guys probably, a lot of you who are involved enough to be watching this video, are subscribed to other content creators like Vega or Simula, who I saw both put out videos today, one calling for a boycott, both talking about what a nightmare raids are, not in the way that Kabam intended, but just in the way that they've been received by the players, because they're not fun and they suck, basically. That's, long and short of it. You've seen a lot of talk from people like Legacy or Trappy or Damn Epic Whale or whomever saying that they weren't going to be spending on the game too. Not officially calling for a boycott quite the same way, but just saying they personally weren't spending. So I want to see those posts. All right, moving on. Problem space. I'm going to start by describing some problems and challenges that have driven the changes we are planning to make. Some of these are inherent to Battlegrounds mode itself. Some of them are wider game issues, and some of them are operational changes on the game team. So he basically says that the meta system design isn't working. The solo and alliance events have never really worked as intended. The original design assumed that while some players would try to game the system, most would play the mode as intended, that intent being trying to win every match. It hasn't turned out that way, and over time, we are seeing more and more players trying to game the system. We've occasionally taken action against farming, but at the end of the day, we have to be accountable for the incentives we provide players, and right now those incentives do not line up with how we want the mode to be played. It's a design miss on our part. Okay, that's interesting to me. I get that. Farming is an issue, right? And I do think that it is very noticeable that the more neglect we see with Battlegrounds, the more modders and cheaters we see come out. To a certain extent, that doesn't concern me too much, because modders and cheaters, as long as at least some of the players are being, reporting them, and especially content creators reporting them directly to the content creator program, they're going to get caught, they're going to get banned. I don't really care that much about it. There are other issues with matchmaking and different things that are a issue. My alliance, I would boot anybody who was known to be farming out of my alliance. So we get our Battleground score where we end up in the top 10 for the alliance rewards, usually by doing it the right way. Other alliances, I think, do some farming. I'm not accusing anybody specifically, but they seem to, win with Elder Marks, lose with energy to get back down to lower level, win with Elder Marks, that way to get their score up. So I understand if he's saying that that is not the system that they wanted and it doesn't really work for them. That makes sense to me. If they were able to address farming in the victory track, which we know you can get banned for, or you can get a warning about at least, or however that works, I'm not quite sure why they can't do that technically for the gladiator circuit as well. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that there's the brackets system that's like a hard bracket that you can't pass for the victory track, whereas for the gladiator circuit you can pass in and out of the different levels, right? Uru, Gamma, whatever it is, and maybe that's why that is. But I feel like there should be some way around that to deal with that. Second, because of the way the mode is structured, there's no benefit to pushing to the gladiator circuit and beyond as soon as you're able. Yeah, okay, I understand that. We're end up in the season determines almost the entirety of your reward payout. Yes, exactly. This caused a number of problems, including very uneven matchmaking, as players have no incentive to compete to their level for the majority of the 4-week season. Yes and no, because the people I see who play the most are the ones who want to play, and so they want to start out good. They want to be at the top for as long as they can be, because it's easier to stay at the top if you get a bunch of points right away than it is to try and recover all the points on the last day or something. Because the last day, the game mode goes offline sometimes quickly. All the modders and cheaters seem to come out definitely the last day. People being desperate to get points last day. So it's definitely, there are some advantages to getting a bunch of points earlier on in the season. I don't fully agree with that part. Third, the restructure of the victory track allowed a number of players in the gladiator circuit, which wasn't originally structured to accommodate the influx. Okay. This part is a very big part here. So everything else on this problem space list will probably make sense to most of the people reading this, but I'm assuming this one will be a surprise to a significant number of you. I'm assuming this is based on dozens of forum posts and YouTube videos I've seen that were a version of Kabam is killing the most important game mode. Yes, I've read and watched them all. Everyone. Probably. He's kind of his job. Despite its importance to the public domain of our game, Battlegrounds is a niche game mode. The vast majority of our players do not, nor have they ever played Battlegrounds seriously, even when the rewards were top of the game shortly after it launched. I'm sure some of you are thinking, okay, but Battlegrounds is how you make your money because it's the only thing driving players to spend on their rosters. But again, this is not correct. The vast majority of our revenue comes from players who do not, nor have they ever played Battlegrounds seriously. Thinking Battlegrounds is the most important game mode is an easy trap to fall into. I know this because I myself fell into that trap. For the first year after launch, I was certain Battlegrounds had taken over the game. My colleague numbers who used to tell me I was overestimating the importance of the mode, but I was convinced. Now looking back, I'm not sure exactly which cognitive fallacy to ascribe it to. I think it was some combination of confirmation bias, visibility bias, and the bandwagon effect. If you look at what our content creators are streaming and what people are talking about on social channels, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that Battlegrounds is the contest. This isn't surprising. It's obviously the most engaging game mode to stream. A group of hardcore competitive players, many of whom play the contest as their primary hobby or even their career, love it, but it's not for everybody. And the more I dug into the data, the more I came to realize I was wrong. Despite my love for the mode, it was not the core experience, and we had been neglecting that core experience. Okay. That is what I kind of suspected for quite a long time. Well, I don't know if I would say quite a long time, but at least since the banquet came out, because if Kabam's main way, if the majority of the players are not those at the end game, which makes sense, right? And the majority of those players are keeping the company going by spending here and there, not the ones who spend and buy every offer, the end game players and the whales and so forth. That makes a lot of sense to me. It is what it is, right? It doesn't matter what kind of corporation you are. At the end of the day, Kabam is a corporation. You could be on the sliding scale from like Walmart, who takes, has employees who are on welfare basically, to Costco, who pays a bunch of money to their employees, relatively speaking. Obviously it's not, what I'm saying, right? It doesn't matter where they're at on that sliding scale of corporation good or evilness. At the end of the day, it's a corporation. They exist to make money, and they need to focus on the thing that makes them the most money. If what makes them the most money is not Battlegrounds or selling those new champions to people for Battlegrounds, it makes perfect sense to me why that is not their primary focus. And so, yeah, it's a niche. That all makes sense to me. I don't have to like it. And the one thing about this that I would say is they have to at least in some way be smart enough to calculate what kind of free advertising they're getting from all the content creators who, like me, stream every night or make big videos about these new champions and how they're going to affect your deck for Battlegrounds or Alliance War, because I think that Alliance War and Battlegrounds share a lot of the same kind of needs and wants for those new champions and being up to date the most you can on the game. And so you could put those two kind of end game players in the same camp in certain ways, the ones who really enjoy Alliance War and the ones who really enjoy Battlegrounds, lots of crossover between them. So I understand that that's not their exact most important game mode that they have to focus on all the time, because that's not where they get the majority of the revenue from or their retention of players, and that the majority of players don't play it as seriously as someone like me or, you know, any of your other big content creators do. That makes sense to me. Having an unrealistic expectation about that, it doesn't help anything, right? So that's good. I get that. Prioritization of a more casual audience. Okay, so he then here talks about a lot of things about, you know, how things went because of COVID, the explosion of live service games where people had more time on their hands to play those kind of games. They're trapped in their houses, you know, all this different stuff, and why it made sense for them to hire more people and then lay off more people when didn't happen. That's kind of like inside baseball stuff. If you guys want to know more about this, definitely read this whole post. I'll have a link to it in the description, of course. I've seen people suggest that Kabam hates Battlegrounds, and I can tell you, at least for me, it couldn't be further from the truth. I've made no secret that Battlegrounds is my favorite game mode. I've always been attracted to competitive environments. Personally, in many ways, Battlegrounds is the contest. For me, like many of you, it is the most important game mode. Okay. I appreciate that and that honesty. However, after digging through the data, I determined that, contrary to my own personal interest as a player, focusing on Battlegrounds would do nothing to solve our problem of declining player base. Indeed, I even uncovered some evidence that better rewards in Battlegrounds led to worse overall player retention. That one I don't really completely understand, but he's got data to back it up. Cool. That I appreciate when arguments are backed up with facts. That is a good thing. Basically, the better someone is at Battlegrounds, less likely they're to stop playing the game. Our data team looked at it and found over an 8-month period, 3 Celestial players that stopped playing the game. Not 3%, literally 3 players. That's crazy. That's good. That's really good retention. And if what matters the most to Kabam is their player retention, right? Because if that player is lost, they're gone for good in most cases. Okay, that's a very important thing to keep in mind for the rest of this conversation. That does make sense. This does make sense. It's basically another way of saying players who have the most time invested in our game are least likely to leave. Yeah, right. We're addicted to this game. We play it. We've been playing it for years. At any rate, despite the fact that rewards are now nowhere near the top of the game, this trend hasn't changed. Their retention rate among competitive Battleground players is still very, very high. Okay. For how things have been for a while now, if things aren't fixed going forward, I don't know that that will continue, but they would have data on that. So that's good. But why can't you at least update the rewards? A fair question. When I had some spare capacity, I decided we could manage an update of one of the reward channels. I chose the store because that impacts everybody who plays the mode and is less susceptible to the problems with the meta system I describe above. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. Surely we can do more. Yes, also fair. It's really hard to understand. The lift is to keeping game a game like contest running. From the outside, the priorities list above led to a bunch of extra stuff on top of regular duties I designed for providing. Okay, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. He's doing all this kind of stuff. There's all this kind of stuff that is sagas, all this kind of stuff designed for retaining regular players, not necessarily end game players. Lots of different efforts they've been putting in. As I often am right now, I'm pretty conflicted because the plan worked. They retained players better. In the second half of last year, we saw the first year-over-year growth in our player base in 4 years. That's a big deal for a corporation, right? It wasn't just the result of the work listed above, but many other teams are working on the same problem. Someone who loves Battlegrounds and understands the state it's in, I don't feel super great about accomplishing that goal. I think what he means, right, is he's part of his keeping his job is accomplishing that goal, but because he loves Battlegrounds, that didn't make him happy just to do that. It was something that was necessary, but it meant that Battlegrounds kind of got neglected for a good reason in terms of the corporate reason, but not a good reason or not okay really to him even, and definitely not to the player base who particularly enjoys playing Battlegrounds. The game is too big. We have come a long way from when Story and Arena was the contest. As the game has grown, the economy has struggled to keep up for 3 very core reasons. too many reward channels to make them all valuable. Okay. There are too many reward channels for us to keep updated. This one seems funny to me. Even if we did have enough rewards to make every mode valuable, we simply don't have the internal resources to keep them all updated. Why is that? Why is that? This company makes a lot of money. If you don't have those resources, then hire more people. If that eats into your profits, well, you know, I'm sorry, Kabam, that sucks. But if that's what you need to keep the game going and not failing, then that's what you need to do, right? So like that doesn't really sit very well with me. There are hundreds of places summoners get rewards across the game. Updating rewards isn't as simple as just updating a spreadsheet. For some modes and events, it can be a pretty involved process. We simply don't have the capacity to keep everything up to date for every type of player at every progression across the game. Okay, that's fine. That makes sense to some extent of like every player, right? But you could do some basic things on a regular schedule. And if they need to hire people to do that, I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that. Even if it cuts into their profit a little bit. I don't know how much money they make compared to what they pay their employees, but like, I don't really find that one to be too acceptable. There are many reward channels that we don't want players to feel like they have to do all. Okay, so this is important. They don't want players to feel like they have to do every part of the game. That's good. Now, some of that's always going to be on us as players to just realize, hey, we don't have to do everything, right? Because you can't. And I think a lot of people have realized that. A lot of people just don't play Arena anymore. A lot of people don't do event quests because it hasn't been updated and so forth. So I get that. And I think it's good because people need to know that they don't have to do everything. But I also think that that's a pretty poor excuse for not updating things regularly, because the player base will, you literally, like you said, the game is too big. We only have so much time in a day and only so much mental energy to put into this video game when everyone has kids and lives, partners, jobs, whatever. You know, you only have so much. And choosing where you want to spend your time is a thing that is just, you do about life all the time, right? So I don't really think that's a good enough reason for not updating rewards on a regular basis. I don't really buy it. We don't have the resources to do that. Okay, then pay somebody and get some more resources to do that, right? Personnel resources. And then we don't want people to feel overwhelmed. The game feels overwhelming anyways. At least if you had all these different areas where it still felt overwhelming and then I don't have time to do all these different things, at least if the rewards are up to date, you just pick and choose the same exact way that you do now. You say, hey, I don't have the time to play, you know, to do the event quest every month. It's not rewarding enough to me, or the Paragon, I don't care about it enough. It's not rewarding enough to spend my time doing that. People are already making those decisions, but they're also just making those decisions with crappy rewards. You could just at least update the rewards, maybe make it harder for people to decide which part they wanted to focus on. But that's a good problem to have. I mean, like, oh God, I'm at the buffet and it has all these delicious desserts and I can't decide on which of these desserts I want to eat. That's a much better problem than, oh God, I looked at this buffet and like all these desserts look like nothing. They look terrible. That looks like a day old, whatever. No, you want the problem of having too many good options rather than having too few good options. That's just seems nonsensical to me. I'm sorry. Okay. Moving on. Cancellation of Battlerealm Brawl. It's not surprising to me that Legacy, Andrew, Trap, and others they're mad because they're some of the best players in their, that's not fully why, I understand that. I like him talking about specific people. That's good. He's seen these videos and stuff. But he says that the decision was made due to factors outside the control of the game team to cancel our plans. That's understandable. He takes responsibility, and when he's talking about these things, for the things that he is responsible for, some of those things are outside their, decision-making process, right? It's not cheap to fly people like Canal from Brazil or FinTech or whoever. It's not cheap to fly all these people in to Vancouver and put them up in a hotel to be able to do this kind of Battleground Brawl stuff. I get that. It's kind of a showcase about how they're doing that. So if someone higher up, earlier on the post, he mentioned they had a turnover at CEO. Those people higher up say that, no, sorry, that's not the budget this year. We're not doing that. That's not something that Crash has control over. And that makes sense. I sometimes wish we had more accountability from their CEO or whoever is in charge ultimately for making some of these decisions. That's okay. Cancellation of Battleground Brawl, hard decision he's sad about. Yes, we all want that. I will still say that going to the Battleground Brawl, even though I wasn't a contestant in it, was one of the most fun experiences I've had in the last few years. It was just a blast to get to hang out with all these people who are passionate and involved in this game. the same way I am, and just have a good time and see some of the behind the scenes stuff at their offices, and have it feel like a real esport kind of moment that we kind of all wanted there to be happening over and over again. And so far that has not been the case. Hopefully they're going to do that, but we'll see what happens in terms of if they get to do that going forwards. This post does not close the door on that at all. It just, there's other concerns, and that'll be probably a different post or a different conversation about that. Other Battleground specific issues: staleness of the match experience. We're in season 27. Yes, we want to mix up the metas. We want to do stuff. We want to have different decks and do different whatever. There's lots of different ideas about that. Lots of that kind of stuff has been discussed in the content creator program without going into any specifics. I have personally talked to Crash about that kind of stuff. Many other people have suggested really good ideas. Those videos from Legacy and Trap and Andrew and whatnot, there's all sorts of other people. There are really good suggestions in there, and I think they're going to be working on some of those. Shuffle's not working properly, meaning you get the same champion when you do the shuffle sometimes. Okay, they're going to fix that. Match declines are a problem at the top. People at the very top getting their matches declined when they've waited for 10 minutes to even get a match. That's an issue. Match times are a problem at the top. Same thing, just saying. Pausing can be an advantage. Okay, there are certain circumstances where pausing can be, these are other problems, right? Pausing, filthy pausers. We all know what an issue they are. Planned changes. Removal of the solo event. Okay, this one's a big one to me personally, right? This change is related to the restructuring of the meta systems. We'll be removing the solo event and distributing that reward budget between the victory track and the gladiator circuit, with most of the milestone budget going to the VT and most of the ranked rewards budget going to the GC. It won't be a one-to-one mapping of rewards, but it will mean that both progress in the VT and GC are more rewarding. Okay, so they did put this up to where they have what we're looking at here. If you're in bronze, you get some 5-star shards over here by moving up. You get 6-star shards moving through silver and gold. You get 7 stars from platinum onwards and to diamond, and then vibranium you get titan shards. So that seems like a good part of this. I don't really mind those milestones being moved to here. My only issue with that is slightly that, technically, even if you're not very good or you have a very small roster, you could grind those milestones out while losing quite a lot. Whereas if you can't get to that next level, you can't get those grinded rewards. And that's probably my main issue with this overall. That post that they had there does not say exactly how things are going to go. Let's see. For the there's no post. There's nothing saying exactly what the rewards will be for the gladiator circuit and how that's going to work out. Crash talked about how there isn't enough reward for your placement in the gladiator circuit, and so then this means that that's going to help that out. But frankly, that's gonna screw me completely, right? I'm not very skilled, and that's fine. That's something I accept. But you know what I am? I'm grindy. I'm a grindy mofo. I always play with Elder Marks to help out the score for my alliance, and because that gets me those ranked rewards for the solo events. Moving the ranked rewards to the gladiator circuit and the different levels there, that means I'm always going to have to be finishing higher maybe than I feel comfortable with. So until I see what that actually means, I'm not sure how I feel about this. But as of right now, for me personally, that kind of sucks. And I know there's other people who are like me, who are like, I made it to the gladiator circuit, sweet, I'm done. So getting 10,000 shards for, Titan shards for just getting to the gladiator circuit, that's cool, that's great. But then saying, oh no, you're going to have to finish higher, and you can't just be Uru, or you can't be Gamma, or you can't be Arcane. If you want those milestone, or if you want those ranked rewards that you would have gotten by being grindy and putting in your time and effort and spending your units on Elder Marks, if you want those, now you're going to have to place higher. Well, I'm competing with people who are more skilled than me, and I'm probably not going to be able to do that. So you're kind of taking away and devaluing my time and my units, which can be for real money spent. And that I really don't like. So I need to see those changes to the gladiator circuit and see if they're a big enough jump up before I just say whether or not I think that's really good or that's really bad, I guess. And that's probably one of my main sticking points with this update overall. But they do have a target timeline here. Removal of solo events to season 28. Buff to the VT rewards season 27. We managed to sneak it in for this coming season. Aha. This answers specifically something that I've been curious about, which is, you know, after they put out that post saying, we hear you. And I kept saying on live streams, well, then why not do something about it for season 27? And my question was, is it a technical thing where they don't have the tech to just do it in between their builds, right? Saying every month there's an update and we don't have, they can do that. So going forward, sweet. We now know they can just insert different rewards or change things in the middle of a season, in the middle of an Alliance War season, in the middle of an Alliance Quest season. They can do that. Cool. That is very useful information to have, because that means that in the future we can be like, hey, why do we have to wait another month or two? You guys can do it now, and we know you can do it because you've done it right here. So good to know. And I'm very glad that the rewards will be getting updated for season 27. We will see those Gladiator Circuit changes and in a few days, basically. So that's great. Gladiator Circuit rewards overhaul season 28. Well, okay, great. We'll see part of that, right? Yes, this means the next two seasons, the solo event will be running alongside the buffed victory track rewards, allowing players to double dip. That's great. That's, if they're changing things, there's no problem. No one's ever going to complain about getting more, you know, getting the ranked rewards, getting the solo event milestones, getting all that kind of stuff. No one's going to complain about that. That's a nice thing. Thank you. We appreciate that. That's good. Okay, now we get to this. Creation of Radiance, a new competitive currency in store. Oh my God, my instant reaction is, are you freaking kidding me? You just said there's too many rewards channels. You just said the game is too big. You're giving us another store and another currency? Oh my God, what? Okay, I'm gonna read the rest of this and maybe it'll make sense. But on its face, initially, you're just like, what are you talking about? This completely contradicts the things you just said. This change is related to solving the problem above. Okay. That the game has become too big. Okay. Plan is that Radiance will eventually replace a substantial portion of the ranked rewards in all competitive modes. Okay. This solves all three problems I mentioned above. It allows us to control the total reward distribution while better valuing summoner time. Okay. It allows us to update the ranked rewards across the game by updating a single store. Kinda, but I don't take store rewards as being the same as a ranked reward. Those are not the same things. Like, that's kind of like saying, okay, your money goes further at the grocery store because of deflation. So like your cost of living went down and so your money goes further. So see, aren't you happy with that? I'm like, well, yeah, I am happy that like the price of whatever went down and so I can get more of it for the same price. That does add value, but that's not the same as getting a bigger paycheck. Like if you're working at your job and you do what you're supposed to do for a year and you do a good job, and then when it comes time for your performance review, your boss says, well, you know, milk and gasoline and eggs are all cheaper, so we're not going to give you a raise this year because your cost of living went down. You just be like, what are you talking about, man? No, I maybe I don't just want to pay rent and buy eggs and buy groceries and do, maybe I want to be able to afford a vacation. Maybe I want to be able to afford a house. Maybe I want to be able to afford to have a family. No, I did a good job. I should get a raise. Like, it's not just enough to say that the price of items at the store went down, so then they can just not give you that raise. That's just total BS. You know what you'd start doing in that case? You'd start looking for another job that paid you more because your boss was a D-bag who said that the prices at the store went down and so your money went farther or further. No, that's not acceptable. That's not cool. I don't agree with that in the slightest. And doing it by giving you another currency. Oh, make sure that you got the company script. Otherwise, like, dude, okay, let's continue before I get too tangenty and upset about this. But it all allows summoners to choose their It allows summoners to choose their own adventure when it comes to which modes they want to be competitive and which they don't. Okay. We just said that we weren't buffing the rewards because we didn't want people to feel like they had to do everything. But then you're saying that introducing another store and another currency will allow people to choose their own adventure. We could choose our own adventure right now. It's too much contradiction in these things. I don't understand it. I will try to talk to Crash about this more and see if he can explain it personally. Hopefully he'll watch this video. What? This makes no sense to me. Adding another store. if they take away other stores like the Battleground, if they take away the Battleground store, if they take away the Glory store, if they take away the Loyalty store, whatever, combine them down just to this one Radiant store, but you get all the same kind of currency for doing all those different game modes, that makes sense. Introducing this before they do that, I don't really love. And every time that they've introduced something lately, like a change to the Battleground store or Mysterium or whatever, it's always come along with, hey, no, you no longer have like the quest crystal trade-in, or no, you don't have the potions, or no, oh, and then we're like, sorry, we will go back on that, and then we'll give those back to you, and we'll give those to you for free for having the sigil. And like, it never works out exactly like they say it's going to. You seem to always lose something every single time, and I'm not confident in them giving us this new store while taking away other stores without losing more stuff. Like, I'm very skeptical. I give them a lot of the benefit of the doubt for a lot of different things compared to some content creators or just people who play the game. I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt on this one. I don't like this. I will see what happens with it. That's fine. But introducing more complexity, more stores, more things you have to do, and not taking out the other, and then if they do, I'm just not sure I trust them to take it out and not leave us somehow being shafted. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Introducing this currency also helps future-proof the ecosystem as we are working on another major mode, competitive components. Okay, with competitive components. Well, that sounds cool to introduce another major mode with competitive components. That sounds great. In some ways, though, this goes to like people generally saying, hey, can you stop that, please, and fix the bugs? And that's always been a complaint from the community that I don't really love, because the bug fix team is not the same as the introducing new stuff team, right? But at a certain point, too, you just got to be like, dude, introducing new things while not fixing some of the problems, aside from bugs, with rewards or with staleness of a game mode, are some of the people who are working on this new thing some of the people who could be working on Battlegrounds in different modes? Like, there's got to be some overlap there, because the people working on the bug fixes not being the same as the developers who make the, take care of the mode or introduce new stuff, that I get. But leaving stuff like Battlegrounds neglected for a year while they focus on other stuff, do we really need new stuff? Is new stuff what brings in new players to the game? Because Battlegrounds for me was what made me not quit the game. That's for sure. That makes sense. I already have something I really like, though. Can we kind of make sure that's fixed before we do the new stuff? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this too. GC rewards overhaul season 28 for the target timeline. Okay, AW and AQ to follow later this year. Okay, that's good. That's good. We want more information about those kind of things. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. We'll provide more details before the changes are made, but rest assured, the end result will be making the Gladiator circuit much more important than it currently is. All right, that sounds good. I got to see it. New objectives to reward pushing higher faster. The change is related to solving the issue of lack of incentive to play Battlegrounds early in the season and create a more even matchmaking experience. We will be creating objectives that reward early success to the Gladiator circuit. Exact details are still being worked out, but it will probably look something like this. Reach the Gladiator circuit by the end of week 1 of the season. Reach 100 rating by the Gladiator circuit at the end of week 2. Reach 200 by the end of week 3. Okay, I get that, because you want more engagement with the game mode. You want people more playing more sooner, right? What if I got school? What if I got work that's real busy? What if I'm going on vacation? So you say that you're worried about people having FOMO, fear of missing out on things, because there's too many complicated areas of the game, and buffing rewards would make people feel like they're missing out. But then you're introducing an element of a timed thing for how to get the best rewards in the Gladiator circuit? Like, what? Again, these two things are completely contradictory. Are you worried about people having that fear of missing out? Or are you worried about them? Like, because if I'm now can't miss enough, I'm like, well, crap, I gotta go back. My grandmother died and I gotta go to the funeral. And I gotta fly back home to Chicago to deal with this. And so now I'm not going to get the rewards because I don't have the time to put in to do that. Like, dude, I get them wanting to increase participation early. That makes sense. But these rewards for that should be something extra. They should not be something that is pivotal to the game mode, because that completely contradicts their worries about people missing out and having fear of missing out. So I don't love that. I like, if it's extra, sure, that's fine. If it's something that's critical, like say this is where your ranked rewards were from the solo event. This is where they're going. I really don't like that. Okay, so we'll see. Target timeline season 28. Plan is also award radiance. Okay, it's all new store stuff. Okay. Restructure victory track, making it easier to gain progress. Sweet, cool, that's great. Rating decay. This is a very big one. This change is related to solving the issue of lack of incentive to play Battlegrounds regularly for competitive players. Exact details are still being sorted out, but the idea is that if you don't play Battlegrounds for a certain number of days, your rating will begin to decay. Rating decay is very common in competitive games. Okay. This, as far as the time constraints and when people can play, this I get because this has a positive aspect to it for players who are playing very actively. Yeah, if things come up and your rating decays, that will be negative, but it won't be that rewards exactly the same as like having to hit 100 score by week 2. It's not quite the same. So I'm fine with this because this mostly affects people at the top about the ratings decay. This should be hopefully a good thing to help sort out that matchmaking and people not playing at the end, just parking and not playing. That should be a good thing. New ELO tuning and matchmaking settings. So yeah, we want people to have more even matchmaking. Okay, this is all good stuff. Restructure of Gladiator Circuit rank buckets with more incentive to push, and the changes to the victory track medal economy. We expect many more players to reach the Gladiator Circuit than it was designed to support. So we'll be restructuring the buckets with the intent that more players will finish in the ranks above Uru 3. Okay, so if there's more players, then making those buckets where those rewards are wider, that should be a good thing as far as my interpretation of it. I'll want to see it again. Target timeline, season 28. Okay. Experiment with new matchmaking formats. That's just the kind of thing. They say that current Battlegrounds will be standard Battlegrounds, and then they'll create new formats. That is awesome. That is super duper exciting. I really don't think that the rewards need to be tied in any way to that, but if they have buffs that happen at that time when they do that, that's cool. We absolutely want that. Target timeline later this year after championship qualifiers, should they happen. So like having a championship qualifiers for a Battlerealm Brawl or something like that. Okay, cool. Seating review. They want to review where people start out based on their Gladiator Circuit seating for one system to the next. That makes sense. Time to be determined. Remove the match except flow. They're going to just be making it so that declining a match is an option. Okay, cool. Fix shuffle signets. They want to have a way where when you shuffle that, you don't get any of the champions that you are shuffling on, which is a problem right now, and then also that people can see what you shuffled to. Okay. Final thoughts. I said above that we didn't prioritize Battlegrounds last year, so why is it focused now? I'm confident our playbook to engage the players we focused on last year. So he's saying they did what they wanted to. They saw growth by not focusing on Battlegrounds. So now he thinks it's time that they can refocus on Battlegrounds and our competitive ecosystem. Cool. What about the Alliance event? For now, we are going to leave that untouched. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. The rewards for that are not good enough, and it just sucks. We want to implement the solo event, victory track, and Gladiator Circuit rewards changes and see how that all feels and looks in the data. We do have some ideas for how we could change the Alliance event if it comes to that. Could the Alliance event ranked rewards be based on the sum of Gladiator Circuit rating for the Alliance members? Maybe, maybe not. I would hate that. Again, that would just give things to do. That would mean... So one of the things I really don't like about certain alliances is they will pick up a better player and dismiss another player who doesn't do as well in Alliance War. So if you're Alliance War focused, you want the absolute best players to be able to do that. And it means that even if someone who's in your alliance who does their job, but they're just not as good as other skilled players, then sometimes alliances will boot those players and take on a player they think is like the absolute best, because that's going to make sure they win more wars, and that's going to give them the best rewards. I would really, really hate that, because for an alliance like mine, we have a lot of skilled players who finish in Celestial, finish in Mysterium, finish much higher than I do. But I got people who don't finish there, but they always do their part to put up the score for the Battlegrounds minimum for the Alliance event. And I'm not going to kick those people to get better people who finish higher. And okay, maybe they finish higher a couple seasons, but maybe they don't some other seasons. Like it just completely, they have the loyalty system in alliances. There's no loyalty for those kinds of alliances. Oh, we're going to boot you because we got this guy who will die one time throughout a war season and you died 5 times. And so they kick that person. There's no loyalty. I hate that. That is completely against the feeling of an alliance to me. I absolutely hate that idea. All right. Anyways, continuing on here. Rewards be based on the sum of the Gladiator Circuit rating. Okay. We shall see. One thing I can say is at some point in the not too distant future, we have to reevaluate the elder mark economy, as obviously removing the solo event devalues that currency. Extremely devalues it completely, right? What about pausing? Filthy pausers. That's one thing I outlined with no planned solution. We have explored this and will continue to, but our engineers have told us there's no way to keep our app running in the background. Okay, what does that mean exactly? So even if we remove the pause button, players will still be able to pause the game by switching out of the app. So this is something that remains very explorative at the moment. Okay, can you not track technically when they skip out, when you're out of the app? Because if you switch out of the app, why wouldn't that just be the same as like a game crash or a restart and you just zero them out instead of getting a pause? Because like very clearly, my game can crash and then I can get no points. Or like, why, you know, like there's got to be some way to technically handle that, because there's just no reason to pause in Battlegrounds. I've heard people say that, you know, okay, maybe your kid comes and bugs you, your kid, so just take the loss. Just take the loss, whatever it is, take the loss, move on to the next one. There's no need to have that pause. But they're going to work on that, something that remains explorative at the moment. Finally, I mentioned we intend to explore new scoring formats. We hear the community's feedback that the change we announced for this season was not a positive one, changing the timing, right? Since we decided to tinker with the season 27 settings to update the victory track rewards, we decided to also revert that. So they're not going to be messing with the scoring for that. Okay, that's good. Okay, God, this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of stuff. Like I said, thank you to Crashed for doing this. He's been on vacation. I'm sure he was thinking about this a lot, even when he was on vacation, and that's got to suck. Hopefully he didn't think about it too much, but you know, so that's a lot of stuff to work through, and I need to see a lot more about this to see what exactly I think about all of it. I like I said, there's stuff that affects me personally. There's stuff that if they get rid of the alliance scoring, there's no reason for me to have an alliance like mine that's focused on Battlegrounds, because the idea of that is we all come together to put up a minimum score and get those top rewards. The fact that they're not buffing those rewards when clearly they can, okay, I get it. Maybe that encourages point farming, but that's like my alliance, which doesn't do point farming, is then getting punished for the alliances that do point farming. We shouldn't be punished for that, and we should still be able to do our best to compete and still get better rewards. Because even if we're not going to get the top 1 or 2 or 3 spots, because those spots might go to people who are farming points, right? Losing with energy, winning with elder marks, at least we might still be able to get top 10. And even if we only get top 20 or top 30 or top 50, at least those rewards will be better, you know? So the not buffing the alliance war reward, or the alliance milestones and objectives, rewards, that kind of stuff. What? Why not? Just do it. Just do it. You can clearly do it. You're doing that with the solo ones. Don't remove the alliance ones. Or if you do remove it, like, that's fine. If that's the direction they want to go, that's fine. But those need to be factored in. And I'd rather they just said, hey, here's 5,000 T7B that we put into the alliance, you know, the rankings rewards for this season. Go get it. And we'll work on pausing. We'll work on farming. We'll work on all that kind of stuff later on. I don't think there's any reason not to upgrade those rewards right now. They could do it tomorrow. Clearly, they have that technology. We just learned that from them saying they can mess with the victory track and give those rewards. So, yeah. I'm going to edit this video real quick and put it out. Mostly, it's very ranty. You guys let me know in the comments what you think. And then I'm going to be live talking about this. I was going to stream another game tonight, but I'll be live a little while after this video comes out. So that we can talk about this kind of stuff, and I'll just be doing like arena or something. We can talk about our feelings and talk through that, all that kind of stuff. It was one of those times where I definitely miss Brian Grant. I would love to see Mr. Contest Champion talking about all this stuff, because this is a place where this space is great for him to get that unique perspective. Hopefully you guys enjoy my perspective and me talking about this. I'm not a replacement for him. I'm just also bald, because he's actually bald and he doesn't have a bald cap business. But I digress. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment, blah, blah, blah. Let me know what you guys think about this. And please do come by the live streams and talk about this. We'll be doing more MCOC. I'm going to be playing other video games just because, yeah, I guess I haven't talked about the feelings about any formal boycott or anything, but we can do that on the live stream too. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Again, shout out to Crash. They are at least very aware of our issues and acknowledging it, and that's good to see. This is a good thing to have this engagement overall. We need to see exactly how things shake out, but it's better than nothing. Absolutely better than nothing. Cheers.